This meeting is being recorded by the host or a participant. The account owner.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the July 19th Transit-Paratransit Coordinating Committee. Let's go ahead and get started with introductions. I will read off the list of participants that I see and go from there. My name is Dana Turay. I'm with SCTA, staff to this committee, and I will be facilitating the meeting. Dennis Battenberg is the chair of this committee, calling it in via phone. We also have Jenna Erickson, our vice chair, and
yes, I wear many hats.
Thank you, Jenna. Jenna's also the TPCC representative on the Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as others. We have Tracy Beards, Kathleen Cortez from the Area Agency on Aging, Emily Heiselman, remind me, it's the West County Services. Thank you. And we have Linda Chaffin. Linda, would you like to briefly introduce yourself and your affiliation?
Sure. I am from Cloverdale, and I am a member of the board of directors for the Cloverdale Senior Center, primarily interested in trying to establish some sort of transportation options for Cloverdale.
Thanks, Linda. And we have Dan Carlisle. Dan, would you, or sorry, Don, would you mind introducing yourself and your affiliation?
Yeah, sure, everybody. I'm actually with the city of Santa Rosa. I'm actually the safety officer and also the ADA coordinator. So I'm pretty new, just here for a couple of months. So I'm still learning the ropes, but hi.
Great, welcome. And we have Mohammed Ali with MV Transit. And someone just named Zoom user. If that's your name on the screen, would you mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself? All right, maybe we'll get back to the Zoom user. We have Colin Thoma with the Disability Services Legal Center, Ross Clendenin with SCTA and RCPA, Brian Albee with Sonoma County Transit, Sylvia Martinez Palacios with Petaluma Transit, Scotty Malay King, and I'm assuming, Scotty, that you are still with the Sebastopol Senior Center. Welcome. And I also see someone calling in from a phone number ending in 0342. Would you mind introducing yourself?
This is Yuri Kozlin with the city of Santa Rosa, joining you from the phone today.
Great, thank you, Yuri. All right, well, let's move on to public comment. Does anyone have any comments for items that are not on the agenda? All right, hearing none, let's move on to approval of the meeting notes from May 17th. Does anyone have any comments or corrections on the meeting notes?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't here for that.
Okay. All right, and would somebody like to make a motion on the approval of the meeting notes?
Motion to approve the notes from last agenda.
I can second that.
Great. Thank you, Emily and Kathleen. All right, let's move on to the Regional Paratransit Coordinating Council debrief. So I extended an invitation to the group for the Regional Paratransit Coordinating Council Conference, which was led by MTC. This is the first conference that of all of the regional Bay Area paratransit coordinating councils that has happened for several years. So it was good to get back together and hear from the other counties about what they're doing and with their PCCs, issues that have come up, and kind of revisit the purpose and intentions of PCCs. So I just wanted to include the agenda, take any questions that anybody has, and just kind of give a brief summary that we went through the kind of original purpose of PCCs, why they were established, and changes that were made. Essentially, it is a requirement that counties do have a paratransit coordinating council, and it is tied to the Transportation Development Act funding. And the purpose is really to coordinate paratransit services with fixed route services. These committees often also function as a way to coordinate other non-transit services, especially for people living with disabilities and seniors. So there are a variety of different kind of structures and makeup of committees throughout the Bay Area, but generally with that same intention and vision for coordination and improving efficiency and collaboration. So there was a lot of discussion about recruiting new members and best practices for that. We got some good tips about outlets for engaging various organizations and building up kind of a suite of a diverse advisory panel. So that was good. We also talked through the Blue Ribbon Action Plan, which includes the Blue Ribbon Task Force that was developed through the MTC, and their Transit Transformation Action Plan, which includes some actions on access and mobility. So we talked through those and things that would be upcoming and facilitated through MTC that relate to PCCs. So yeah, I would kind of just leave it there. And if anybody has any questions or did not get the link to the recording and is interested in that, I would be happy to send that out. And I'll just open it up for any questions or comment.
I had a question. Drennan had shared that the task force has a recommendation that each county would have a mobility manager, and that position would help people who are having difficulty locating transportation and help them with resources. So I'm wondering, do you know what the time frame for that is, or the process of having that position added to the county?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kathleen, and I that is something I'm interested in as well. And they did not really discuss the timeline for that that I recall at the regional conference. So that is something that I am interested in hearing from MTC and do expect to hear more about soon.
That was gonna be my question too. Thank you, Kathleen, for asking it.
And I will just say that I did notice there are some there's a list of contacts for each county currently on MTC's website. And for Sonoma County, it leads you to the Sonoma Access website and the 211 phone number. So that is what is currently up there. And I do expect to hear more from MTC on the timeline for that mobility management position, and would be happy to update this group as soon as I do hear more. Dennis, did you have something to say?
No, I thought I was on mute. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're not on mute. If you would like me to help you do that,
Hey,
I'd be happy to do that.
no.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on the?
This is Colin. I did not get the link for the MTC
Okay.
conference, and I would like it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I will send that out to you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to item number 5. And those of you who were at our last meeting in May may recall that an item came up about the Cloverdale and the needs in Cloverdale and the North County for transportation. And so I just wanted to give an update and report on a meeting that we had with the Cloverdale Senior Multipurpose Center, as well as with the Area Agency on Aging, and kind of got an update on the issues in Cloverdale, just kind of briefly recap that. Stakeholders for seniors and people who cannot drive in Cloverdale reported insufficient transportation services. I mean, that local fixed route transit ends in the late afternoon around 3:45, and service to and from Santa Rosa, where most of the services are, especially medical services, is fairly infrequent. Uber, Lyft, and taxi service is either non-existent or close to it. And there's especially a concern for people needing to reach medical services in Santa Rosa and the convenience of that. So we went through just briefly some potential solutions that could include something like on-demand microtransit, subsidized TNC programs, or a driver service in the Cloverdale area. We have a number of examples that we plan to look into more closely and are in the process of doing that. Those include a program that is led by the Coastal Senior Center, and they work in coordination or in partnership with the Mendocino Transportation Authority on vehicle maintenance, and there may be a funding relationship there as well. The Healdsburg Dash program is also an example of a dial a ride service that's run in the city of Healdsburg through the city and operated by a nonprofit. And also a microtransit program run through Marin Transit is another program that is a model that we plan to look into. West Sacramento is also one that has come up as a potential model to look into. So currently, the first step is really to identify some potential funding that a program that is yet to be defined, but kind of falls into that category to meet the needs of people in Cloverdale. And so we are doing some research on the federal Section 5310 funding program, which is the enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. And just kind of briefly, that program is run through Caltrans in coordination with MTC and local government agencies, public transit agencies, and nonprofit organizations can be subrecipients of that funding. And there is a connection with the coordinated plan that's developed with MTC through MTC. And that coordinated plan identifies eligible project types for the Section 5310 funding. There are several identified project types that would likely cover the type of program that's envisioned. The funding is for 3 years, and there was just recently an application cycle. So the next call for projects is expected in 2023. I'm sorry, was that 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the actual application may be due in 2024 and the call for projects may come out in 2023. So somewhere around there. Thank you. There is for capital project, there's a 20% match, and for operating assistance, there's a 50% match. So we are looking into more details in this program, and especially looking at some example programs that have used this type of funding for one of the project types that I mentioned that could meet the needs in Cloverdale. We are also looking into Section 5311 funding, which is for rural transit and intercity bus. And so that funding is particularly for public transit service in non-urbanized areas that have a population of fewer than 50,000 residents. Eligible subrecipients of this funding include local government authorities, nonprofits, and operators of public transit that receive FTA grant funds. There's a capital and operating component of the 5311 funding, and a 20% match. The eligible project types cross over quite a bit with the 5310 eligible project types, and our kind of so far it appears that the type of project that is envisioned in Cloverdale would fit under this funding. So our next steps are to reach out and get more information from various agencies that are operating programs that are similar to what's envisioned in Cloverdale, and get some more detailed information about how they have used either of these types of funding, and And then we will be setting up a meeting with the stakeholders in Cloverdale and talking through what we've learned sometime next month. So I will just open it up to anyone who wants to add to that summary or any other questions that have come up.
Just say that for the 5310, they've waived the matching fees for the last 4 years because of the Golden Gate. I think the bridge tolls have covered that matching requirement for the Bay Area, but you could ask Drennan. She knows more about that.
Okay, so they're allowing the use of toll credits, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, that is good to hear, and I will I'll take a look at that.
The plan to bring something to the SCTA board in September?
Yes, we're hoping to, I mean, we will definitely have an update. We may not have an action by then, but we certainly do plan on reporting on our research and next steps for, making a recommendation.
So it's looking like the likely outcome of this is applying for something that could start in 2024.
The 5310 funding, yes, I believe the timeline would for the next call for project should allow funding to come through in 2024, but I would need to look a little bit closer at that timeline since the next call hasn't come out yet. I'm not sure exactly when the funding would come through if it were successful.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? I'll just also say that, since we are doing more research, we will plan to update this committee at our next meeting as well. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and move on to roundtable updates. Starting with transit and paratransit operators. Let's see. Sonoma County Transit. Brian, would you like to give an update?
Sure. Hi, Dana. Good afternoon. I'm Brian Albee. I'm sorry I missed introductions. Sonoma County Transit. We're working on schedule changes that are effective on August 14th. This brings back school trippers. We're coordinating our schedules to school times. Several changes are being made on several routes. We're also including the Smart Train transfer times on several of our routes, the Roan Park local routes, Route 26, the 44, 48, and the 62 will now have smart transfer times on it. We have a couple paratransit vehicles on order, which hopefully we will get by the end of this calendar year. And then we're working on a 8 to 10 bus electric bus purchase for award probably in October, November, with delivery of those buses in July of 2024. So I think that's what we got right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. And, I actually just saw in the chat, there were some questions that may apply to you, Brian, regarding who is eligible for paratransit and if there's a simple way for seniors to find out if they're eligible. Maybe that the question there is actually looking up an address and seeing if they're within the service area. There's some additional questions about an appointment that was made and kind of a long wait time for a paratransit vehicle. And then affordability of paratransit. So maybe we could take those one at a time. Brian, if you
Sure.
could just touch on paratransit eligibility and service area.
Sure. Well, who is eligible? Anyone with a disability that prevents them from using fixed route transit is eligible. They have to live or board the paratransit service 3/4 of a mile from any Sonoma County transit route. In our case, City Bus and Petaluma have their own programs. We all adhere to the ADA standard of 3/4 of a mile from our fixed route service. The service is provided the same hours and days as fixed route service, and the service can be booked up till the next day. So you could call it at 5 o'clock tonight and request a trip at 7 o'clock in the morning in Cloverdale to Santa Rosa. We are, as operators, provided or required to provide all the trip requests we get, which sometimes is a challenge, but we do it. And fares are twice the regular adult fixed route fare. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. If anyone would like to call me or call our office, we could talk more about it. And we have the application form online now. And if you visit sctransit.com, there's lots of information about the program the county offers. I see Sylvia's here. If she's got anything to add to Petaluma.
This is Yuri. I have something to add. Tell me paratransit won't go up their driveway, for instance. I deal with a lot of seniors. Can I put in their address and there's some sort of way I can tell my clients if they're even eligible? The 3/4 of a mile from a fixed route may sound simple to all you guys lingo, but to the average senior citizen, it's confusing.
Right. Well, I would, we don't have a tool to measure that, but you can take Google Maps, and if you know where our routes are, you can just measure 3/4 of a mile as a crow flies, not as you drive.
To get out a map and find the fixed route, can I get a ruler, you're saying? That's wild.
Excuse me. Can I add something? This is Yuri, Santa Rosa.
Yeah, go ahead, Yuri.
Brian, you may remember there is a tool that's available for riders from your system, as well as City and Petaluma. There's an online map that's available. It's linked to from the City of Santa Rosa's paratransit page, and you can just any member of the public can go to that page and type in their address using a Google Maps, and it'll pull up whether their address is within that 3/4 of a mile. So maybe Dana, I'm not sure who's asking the question, but you might be able to provide a link to that site for them, or I can send one to you.
Yeah, I'll take a look for it now.
If you put it in the chat, I would love to share that
Sure.
with my seniors.
I'm driving right now, so I can't do that, but it should be at our City of Santa Rosa Paratransit under area, like service area. And there's a link there that links you to a Google map that has that displayed.
What about long driveways? I've been told you won't go up the driveway.
Well, I guess it all depends on the size of the driveway. Frequently, there are trees or other obstructions on driveways, and if we can safely get down and out of the driveway with a van. We serve a lot of residential, a lot of rural residential areas, so I can't flatly say that we can or we can't, but we'll send someone out to check to see if we can get to your location.
So if the trees are too close, your guy says, no, we can't do it, or how do you decide that?
Can I answer that? So Mohammed for MV Transportation Paratransit. Okay, the way it works with the addresses, we go over there, we analyze it, we get 3-4 different agencies to be involved in that to look at it, and we will get like in the middle way, so convenient to the client and the same time not to cause a damage to the property. So it's going to be served in a way, cover all the bases. It will happen. We're never going to say we're not going to get you at all. We would find a way in the middle to get it. If it could be at the curb, could be at the side of the building, we could be just the driver go inside, walk the client outside to the building. We will find a way to get it done.
Oh, that sounds great. I might have talked to a client that said they were told that you would not go up their driveway, and that was that. And they weren't given a chance to trim their trees or anything, and they're stuck.
You can say it's the case by case problems all the time.
Yep.
Is that true that the paratransit driver will go in the house and help them get out to the vehicle?
No, we never do that.
We don't
We
provide
never
that
get in the
service.
house at all.
But you'll go to the door. Okay, I'm seeing nods. Yes,
Yeah, we provide
It's curb
the
to
county.
curb for us, curb to curb. So some agencies, they do door to door, some do curb to curb. So it really depends on the agency and their policy. For us, we do curb to curb. So, we go right up to the door. We help the person from the door to the vehicle, into the vehicle. We will not go inside.
Same with the county.
Same with the city.
Why is it tagged to the fixed route, bus routes? Why isn't it tagged to the client's needs?
Because it's a federally funded program. So the federal regulation basically says that you have to provide at least 3/4 of a mile from the bus route. So that's the tag to the bus route. There is, and so that's the minimal ADA requirement. There are opportunities to go beyond that, but that is typically based off of funding. And so at this time, at least for the city of Santa Rosa side, we don't have the additional funding to go beyond that. That being said, the county and the city have gone beyond that in some ways, in which recently since the pandemic, we started providing one-seat rides. So you're not seeing transfers between Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, which is operationally makes sense, but also serves the rider and is a form of beyond ADA type service.
As you can imagine, there's not a lot of fixed routes here in West County. How can I advocate for my clients to get that service? You said you do go beyond that. How do we make that happen?
Well, for the city of Santa Rosa, right now we're going beyond that in that we are providing service from the city directly to Sebastopol, but no farther than that. So we're staying within Sonoma County's paratransit area, but we're just removing the need to transfer. So in terms of advocating for additional routes within the county, that's something that maybe Brian can go into more detail on.
Sure. And the 1C ride, we're staying within the paratransit service area, which is 3/4 of a mile from the fixed route. We're not going beyond that. Although the two operators are no longer making transfers, we're respecting each other's service area. So out in the rural areas, this is the challenge we have, is that there's a lot of folks out in West County and Sonoma Valley that are beyond the 3/4 mile service area. And we just don't have the funding nor the ability to go beyond that. We're needing the letter of the law in terms of ADA, but not always the service requirements or the desire of the community. A lot of people have folks drive them into the service area, and then they get picked up by a van, taken to their destination. That's frequently happens out in West County.
This disabled person has someone that can drive them to like a street corner that you do serve? Is that what you're saying is happening?
Yeah, yes, or a business or a location within the 3/4 mile service area that they can then transfer to a van for service beyond that area.
People have those trailers. Yep.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so this is, go ahead, Yuri.
Oh. My other question, someone told me this morning they could not afford, it's $8.60 round trip. Is there any scholarship program you guys offer directly to low income seniors?
As a transit operator, no, there's no program we have. We do sell a lot of tickets out to social service agencies. So maybe there's some county agencies that they work with. If they inquire about paratransit assistance or tickets, they could get tickets through them. So check with their care provider if they have one.
Their doctor?
Some doctors buy tickets, but mainly it's the county social service agencies that we sell to. So I would have them check with them.
Okay.
Okay.
And Scotty, these are the same questions we've been asking for North County. And I know that in West County, some services are ending. So I'm wondering if this North County effort and the West County effort need to join. And our questions are not only for this group paratransit, but what I've been alerted to, it's not just a paratransit issue, it's maybe people who don't qualify for paratransit also, just transportation in general, that we obviously need more funding. How do we as a network advocate for that? Who do we talk to? Is it through SCTA? That where do we go to push for more funding?
Well, are you talking something beyond the traditional fixed route service and paratransit? Kind of sounds like you are. Okay.
That you're saying you can't go beyond the 3/4 mile because there's not enough money. What if we had more money, and where would we get that money?
From the state Council on Developmental Disabilities. That's where you got to get the money.
I didn't hear all that.
I said the State Council on Developmental Disabilities has the money. They just need you guys to ask for it.
Well, this is the challenge we have. As fixed route operators, we can only run scheduled service in so many places in the county, and of course, paratransit follows it. But there's a lot of folks that are beyond paratransit or don't drive or don't have access to any other type of services, but are needed services that just don't kind of fit into what we as transit operators do. So I agree, it's an issue. I just don't know of any programs other than the volunteer programs that operate in Sebastopol. Anna's got one up in Healdsburg. There's a few of those around the county, and there are some folks in Sebastopol area, out in the river area, that use those services to get to paratransit.
I can answer Yuri's question about the tickets. If the client is a client of the regional center, they can get their regional center worker to buy them the tickets. But they need to ask their case manager at the local regional center to buy them for them if they cannot.
One of the questions I had that we we had discussed with Melanie in the Cloverdale conversation was the Measure M pamphlet that went to the voters. It told the voters that the Measure M funds were going to be one of the objectives that went to the voters was to improve transportation or mobility options. I don't know how it was exactly worded. I could send you the document, but to improve mobility for seniors and people with disabilities. That was what was on the voters pamphlet. And I don't understand how the Measure M projects are approved and who approves them, but what Measure M projects are planned for that objective that went to the voters to improve mobility for seniors and people with disabilities?
Kathleen, could you confirm if you're talking about the Measure M that was passed in 2024, or sorry, 2004?
2004.
Yeah.
Or 2004, or the Measure DD Go Sonoma Act that that is going into effect in 2025?
It was the Measure M, the 2004,
Okay.
that where the projects are currently being presented at the CAC. No one has responded to my inquiries as to how these projects came about and what projects are on the table for the question of the seniors and people with disabilities.
Yeah, so I could just briefly respond to that, and you know, we do have some documentation on how these projects were identified that we could point you to. The Measure M was passed with an expenditure plan, and that expenditure plan had specific projects that were either in the there's a local streets and roads program, which is a lot of the updates that you're hearing about at the CAC. And there's also a local bus program and a program for rail. And that is a percentage of Measure M, rather than a certain dollar amount that goes to a specific project. So currently 10% of the funding that comes in through that tax measure is allocated to the 3 local bus operators based on the population in their service areas. And that I would have to look at the particular language that you're talking about in terms of benefits to seniors and people with disabilities, but transit could definitely fit under that category. And so I could point you to on our webpage where we have more documentation on the expenditure plan for Measure M.
Do you think there's opportunity with this Go Sonoma Act that was recently passed, when they write the strategic plan, to put objectives in there to increase or have a pilot project for non-3/4 of a mile paratransit service or something like that? Is there opportunity? You didn't mention it in your funding synopsis about the Cloverdale issue. So I'm just wondering if there's opportunity to get money from that for the issues that people are discussing.
So there are, rather than very particular projects, there's funding categories for the Go Sonoma Act. And you know, I don't know that there's a category that really nicely fits with the either direct extension of paratransit service areas or supplemental programs. One of the things that came up at our last meeting for future agenda topics was to have a transportation funding primer. And so that is something that under agenda item number 7, we can certainly bring in more information from the programming team at a CTA to talk in more detail about the two tax measures, 2 local transportation tax measures. We can also bring in information about the major sources of operating funding for transit in Sonoma County, and give more detail about how that funding flows and what's available and the limitations of it. So since we are technically still under transit update or transit operator updates, if it's all right, I'd like to move on with those. And then if there are, there's more detail to be discussed under future agenda topics, we could talk through them there if that's all right with everyone. Okay, great. All right, well, let's move on to Petaluma Transit. Would you like to give an update?
This is Sylvia with Petaluma Transit. We don't have anything too major happening. We are working on updating all of our schedules for fall. So that means we are going to be printing and updating our rider guides to reflect our service. I do want to point out that we've been having some issues with being able to staff all of our routes. So we are doing daily updates on our website of routes that have been canceled and or modified. So if anybody's relying on the fixed route, please make sure you check our website for any updates that we're posting on a daily basis. That being said, if you know anyone who is interested in working with us, we drive locally and we are in desperate need of bus drivers. We also need some dispatchers and a bus washer fueler position that needs to get filled. So any friends, family members, please send them our way because we really need help at this moment to be able to deliver our service. And just to mention, our service will be updated by August 7th. That's when we go into effect. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Sylvia. I don't see anyone raising their hands with a question. All right, Yuri, would you like to give an update? Or do you have, I just saw your message about your time constraints. Do you have time for a brief update on?
Update. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
And Mohammed or Don, please feel free to add for the city of Santa Rosa and city bus. Yeah, so similar to Brian, to Sonoma County and Petaluma, we have routes that a new schedule that's coming out for August 14th. I think school in Santa Rosa starts the 11th, but we can't get our service on the field until the 14th. So we're going to fill those couple day gaps. But essentially, yeah, we have a new service rolling out on the 14th. We have, due to driver shortage, similar to what Petaluma's been experiencing, we also will fight you tooth and nail for your drivers with Petaluma. I'm teasing, but yeah, we all need drivers these days. So we've been canceling some trips that are hopefully having the least impact on the ridership. But as of the 14th, everything that's printed in the new schedule will be what we're able to provide. And that's essentially 14 trips that we'll be cutting, starting that'll start August 14th. And so what we're doing with for people that's impacting them, we're offering a call ahead service. So if somebody is, we've been doing this since the beginning of the pandemic. If somebody is last minute needs a filler trip, we're using our paratransit operations to give people individual rides if they call ahead for that, even if they're not ADA eligible, just as a way, if there's a particular trip or route that's being cut due to our short staffing. So we have that as an operational kind of gap filler for that riding public. Sometimes it works, sometimes they would rather just catch the next trip, which is oftentimes the best answer. I will say, I think we have if it wasn't already said, there's a new application for paratransit eligibility that the city's offered that in coordination with the county and Petaluma. So we all have, or if the county and Petaluma are not there yet, I'm not sure, but I think we all are, where the new application is basically the same. It is, there's no more in-person interviews for the city of Santa Rosa. It's simply a paper application, but if we don't have enough information, we may do an over the phone interview or request, medical documentation. So that's fairly new. That's part of coordination that we've done. And the only other major piece I'll say is that we're going to go to our climate action subcommittee on the electrification of city bus. So we have ground has been broken in terms of installing our chargers, and we expect our 4 new buses to arrive this fall and become operational before 2023. And so we'll be going to our council action subcommittee on the August 10th to report on that. Dawn or Mohammed, do you guys have anything to add?
No, not much. The only thing we recognized in the last couple of months is the regional center being closed, and we'll be serving that daycare program for a long time. And we have at least 20 clients going there. So I don't know where they're gonna go next. That will show up in the next couple of weeks. We'll see which program they're gonna go to. So that will happen probably in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, so it's the same service from last time. Thank you.
I have a question for either Yuri or Mohammed, or even Don, maybe can answer this. So the JC starts back up in August, as well as their other schools. How are you going to provide fixed route for the JC? Is that going to be an issue?
Gina, is your question around fixed route service to the JC?
Yes.
Yes, no, that will not be an issue. I mean, we currently provide that service up and down Mendocino Avenue, as well as the county also provides that direct service from their intercity trips. So we'll continue to do that as we've always done in the past. Same bus stops, and we'll be up. And paratransit wise, we'll be serving it in the same way we have in the past as well. There is that construction on the back corner of the campus, in that I'm sure Mohammed will have to figure out how that impacts access, but that's hard for us to know at this moment.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for the updates, Yuri. All right, let's move on to mobility partner updates. Kathleen, would you like to give an update from Area Agency on Aging?
Sure. A little bit of sad news for people who knew Michael Humphrey. He was a fierce advocate and helped with the fires and getting people out of harm's way, people with disabilities. He sadly passed away. And I believe that Sam Wallace at DEM will be taking over the AFN Access and Functional Needs group that meets quarterly. So I just wanted to give you an update. If you attended that meeting and you don't have invite, you could reach out to Sam at Department of Emergency Management to inquire about those meetings and get on the schedule for those invites. As far as the AAA, we're getting ready, believe it or not, for our community-wide needs assessment that will cover the years 2024 to 2028. So beginning in 23, January, February, March, we're going to be doing our focus groups. And we would love help with our partners in getting those out when we get that information together, and we'll be doing a survey. So that's one thing that we're really working on, is organizing where those focus groups will be. If we'll be holding virtual focus groups as well to get the maximum number of attendance. And lastly, this is a little bit of a question for our paratransit partners, is I was contacted by somebody who runs the SNAP senior nutrition program, where they give seniors, low-income seniors get booklets to go shop at the farmer's market. They get coupons, and then they can use the SNAP coupons to purchase fresh produce. They were asking if the paratransit service is doing just one person in a vehicle, or have they changed to having multiple people in a vehicle? Like if somebody from a group of people from Burbank Housing wanted to go to the farmer's market, could they all get in one vehicle?
For the county service, yes.
That's all I have. Tracy, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Emily, do you have any mobility related updates?
No, just that we're working with Scotty, trying to find volunteer drivers to take over this part of West County when our program ends. That's it.
All right, thank you. And Scotty, did you want to add anything to that update, or anything more on Sebastopol Senior Center?
No, I appreciate Kathleen invited me to join this call, and I appreciate the help you're giving me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's see. I'll just open up to if anybody else has any mobility program related updates they'd like to touch on.
I do have a couple of updates. This Thursday, Caltrans will be holding a public webinar on the Highway 101 multi-module quarter plan. They're revamping it, or redoing it. I can send down the link to that after the meeting. And then I put in the chat, Cloverdale does have a program for seniors and people with disabilities to get a discounted rides.
All right, thank you. And Anna, you have your hand up. Did you have an update or a question?
Hi, everybody. Just an update. Our program here, Dash, is just turning 3. And it's with tremendous effort from the entire community. So thank you to AAA and to Caltrans for the funding getting us off the ground. Happy to report that our city council has committed to some additional funding to continue to operate this program with the vehicles that we have. And they've even approved a purchase of a 3rd vehicle so that we can expand our services. And Dana, if there's something that we can do to talk about how this program got started and is working here, I think Dash is a prime example of not point to point, but I call it a door through door service, and a service that our seniors desperately need, in addition to having options like paratransit, because as many of us know who we work with, getting out the door and to the curb is not always possible. So if there's a way I can help be a part of that conversation to advocate for how it can be done, happy to help.
Thank you so much, Anna. And I would definitely like to talk with you in more detail. And I'm sure I could take a look and find your information. So I would be reaching out to you.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any other updates? Okay, let's move on to item number 7, which is future agenda topics. So the topics that were brought up at the last meeting that were requested as future topics include transportation funding primer. I expect that to be pretty specifically focused on transit and transportation programs. The group asked to hear about model TNC-Paratransit partnership programs, and also hear about the state master plan for aging. So if anyone has any, wants to bring any of those to the top for our next meeting, I'd be happy to take that input. Otherwise, we will base it off of what we are ready to discuss. But if there's anything that anyone feels is most urgent, please let me know. Or if you have anything that you would like to add to the list for future agenda topics, I would be happy to hear about that as well. All right, not hearing anything. Does anyone have any other business comments or announcements? All right, then, I will just remind everyone that there will not be a SCTA RCPA board meeting in August. So that our next board meeting is September 12th, and the next TPCC meeting will be held on September 20th. If you have anything that you would like to put on the agenda for the next meeting that you think of between now and then, please feel free to reach out to me, and we will see you then. So thank you all for your time today.
Thank you.